So my project today is to make the microwave ventilation above the range fan blow out instead of back into the house. So I've got a brick veneer. So I wanted to do it with a minimum of tools. And so I was just going to drill holes in the mortar to make the thing, but also it goes halfway around the bricks, if you know what I mean. And I pretty much knew you can't really drill into that brick, it's too hard. And actually, then what happened, drilling those holes wasn't working too good either. And then I would hammer with this, and that wasn't going too well. So I got out some bigger tools, this big grinder, and that cut through the mortar pretty good. And then this little one did some of the littler stuff. Then I still had mortar, because these bricks are this thick, you know. So I still had about that much of mortar on the inside where those couldn't reach. So I drilled some more, and then I used one of these. This is supposedly a concrete drill. Well, it is a concrete drill, although you don't see it much anymore. You can just hit it with a hammer and you swivel it, and it makes a hole. So I used this to punch after I'd cut all the front of it away, that last inch and half inch, and it had holes drilled in it too, and it still wouldn't give way. And I used that to punch it on through, because there was no, and you know, it's still, I've been knocking, and it's still kind of wedged in here, but obviously it's loose now. But the thing of it is, any little bit of mortar will keep it from coming out. So now I got one brick out. So now you can see if you see my hole is really halfway through this brick. As you can, just had to be that way. So I really want the brick to cut here. Plus I need this part here cut off, because this hole's over here. Plus I need to take these two off. And then I got to make some kind of a metal so the grease and stuff doesn't get in the insulation inside there. And there's a stud right here, but that worked out pretty well because the two holes on the microwave straddle that stud, so that part worked out. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do these two bricks. Well, see, but I've got them cut here. I'm hoping I don't have to take the whole brick out all the way to here, although I don't guess it makes much difference. Really, the one, I don't want to take this one out all the way here. I don't want to take that whole thing out. And this just needs a little corner. I probably could skip this one almost entirely, actually, because it's right there. So, that's the story. I'm glad to get that one brick out. I've been working on it for, when did I start? I took the microwave down several days ago. So I'm making a tube like this, a square tube like this, because this is the shape of the microwave exhaust. And there's two of these. There's two places. It's a squirrel cage fan, the motor's in the middle, and there's two squirrel cages on either side of the motor. So this is for one side. I bought a round duct like this to get the sheet metal for it. And then I cut the size I need, and now and then I cut, this is the measurements to make the tube. So I've got a flap, I got 2.5 inch side, 4 inch side, 2.5 inch side, 4 inch side. And now I'm going to bend it on this little brake, this little Harbor Freight brake, which is, you know, a little bit fun. A little bit easy. So put it, and then you gotta have this piece of steel, which I was happy I could find. So you start out, that's where the mark, put it on the mark where you want to bend it. Put the steel on top. Steel's got a slight bevel on it. This brake, you can see the seam in this brake, and you get everything lined up. The metal, that's where I want to make my bend. Put this to resist, and then you gotta clamp it down. Clamp it down. Where's my other clamp? All right. I'll probably do this fast motion. So there's my first bend. Bang like that. Move to the next one. That's that. Just like that. Cool. Right? So now I'm making a flange like this around the inside. To do that, I've got this funny t-shirt on. Cut this, make a slot like this. I want it pointed down. As it leaves the house, I want it to point down, so I need to cut bottom more than the top. Deeper. So then I use this tool here to make the bend. It's nice to have all these tools. And then since I've got a lip, I've got to cut the top off a little bit. Now, there's a stud here, which I was lucky that stud's dead in the middle. I got a screw here. I think I might just caulk it, because it's stuck in there anyway, and the microwave is going to push against it. I probably don't even need to caulk it really, but I think I'll just run a bead of caulk around to kind of seal it a little bit. So I got to cover this up, but I think I'm going to finish this video before I cover it because I'll wait too long. One nice thing, it's close to the overhang, so there's not too much weather problem. I think what I'm going to do, I wouldn't really have to, but I think I'll put a brick here. The brick will fit right in there, and then I'll stuff insulation all around, and then eventually I cover it with something, steel or something, and then flaps. But at this point, I'm not sure. One thing, in the winter, cold air is going to be able to come in here, or warm air, or both. And I wish I could seal that well. And I don't know if I can or not. So that'll be a second video, I guess, if I do. And also, I need to brick this up. This is where the old one was. It was a Genair, and it exhausted from underneath the range. And of course those don't work. But that's the way that was. So I'm finishing up this job. I putting them boards on there like this. One reason I did this is I thought about plywood, but I think this looks a little nicer. It's probably a little better weather resistant. It's already stained as a used board from somebody's deck. And one reason it's nice to use too is I could make this notch instead of having to cut a hole in the middle of a board. It's a little easier. So I drill into the mortar and jam this in there, and then screw it in with these $5 screws. It's surprising how strong it is. So after I get that wood up there, then I'll just be able to put on something like that, something like this with a flap. I'd like to put on something that closed like with a motor, but I don't know if I'll get that done. I'm not sure what I'm going to put on there exactly at this point. I might finish this video, I'm not sure. I'm going to end this video now, even though it's not 100% finished. It still needs a cover. But what I'm going to do, I think, for this winter, I'm going to leave this ladder here, and then I'll just stuff, when it gets cold, I'll put stuff in there so it doesn't leak cold into the house. For the summer, something like this would be adequate, or even just a screen to keep the birds out. I could just have a screen. I haven't 100% decided. Part of the reason I'm in this video now is because I haven't 100% decided how to handle this. Another thing, I could see an electric thing that would seal it off. When you don't want to use it, it would just seal it off like this, and then when you do want to use it, it'd come up like this on hinges. Actually, it wouldn't be terribly difficult, probably. I might, if there isn't one available, I could probably build one. That's an idea. Well, that'll be a separate video on its own.